So, in this session of Weekly Wisdom, we'll be discussing how it's the comfort zone that is stopping you from flying high in your life. And it's literally keeping you hostage at the expense of your dreams. And we'll be looking at how to turn the tables back in your favor. But let me start with a story of a hunter and a young eagle. There was a hunter who used to travel through the forests, and one day he found a young eagle that was injured lying on the ground. He was very excited. He picked up the eagle and very gently took it home. And along with his wife, he cared for that eagle. But this hunter had an ulterior motive. He'd always thought that I would love to have an eagle as a pet, and then I could show it off to all my friends. So while the wife was nursing the eagle back to health, the hunter had a glass house built, a large glass house. And he decided that he was going to keep the eagle there as a pet. The eagle was in that glass house, so on the perch, and it would look up outside and it would see all the other eagles flying high in the sky. And sometimes it would wish that it could also fly high in the sky like those other eagles, but it was trapped. It was trapped in this glass house. Then one day, the hunter forgot to close the door. The eagle realized that this was his opportunity to finally escape, to finally be free. But then a doubt came. I haven't flown for many weeks, many months. What if I can't fly that high again? At least here, I'm getting food every day, though. The hunter's feeding me water, food, everything. I'm getting everything I need. What if I can't hunt again? All of a sudden, the hunter came back and slammed the door shut. And that was it. The opportunity for the eagle had gone. So the eagle spent its days in that glass room. And okay, it was looked after and fed, but it was never free. It always look at the other birds and wonder, what if I could be like that one day? What if I could fly high in the sky? And that's, my friends, what the comfort zone does to us. So today we'll be exploring how to get out of that trap, that prison of the comfort zone. So my name is Nij Day. I'm a relationship coach and I'm a certified hypnotherapist. My mission is to help people like you to raise your game. You're obviously here because you've got that hunger, you want to learn, and you want to fly high in life. So I'm running these sessions to keep feeding that hunger, giving you tips and directions as to what you can do. So now what we're going to cover today is we're going to look at what is the comfort zone. We're going to look at how it works, how it stops you. I'm going to give you 3 tips to overcome it. So first of all, if we look at the comfort zone, what is it? So it's a concept and it comes into play whenever you want to do something new. Let me just say this. If you only do what you've always done, you'll only get what you've always gotten. If we flip that round the other way, then you'll get, if you want something you've never gotten, you'll have to do something you've never done. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to look at today, is that when we try to do something that we've never done, immediately the brain goes, whoa, 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 what's going on here? We're doing something we've never done before. What if, and off it goes, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that? And it takes us down this rabbit hole. This is quite a famous diagram. You may have seen it before. This is the comfort zone. Firstly, then we have the fear zone, and then we have the growth zone. And that's where we want to get to. We want to get to that growth zone where we can fly high in the sky, where we can do those new things, we can meet those new people. But in between the comfort zone and the growth zone, there is this fear zone. So yes, here we are, nice and safe, everything nice and familiar in the comfort zone. We take the same route every day to work. We meet the same people. We order the same food from the restaurant. We watch the same movies or TV series over and over. That's the comfort zone. Now, when we want to achieve that great goal, we have to go beyond the comfort zone to achieve it, especially if it's something we've never gotten before. So if we look at the fear zone, it's an actual biological mechanism to protect us. So it's there that stops us from going out of the comfort zone. And it uses statements or beliefs like, I'm not good enough. What if people judge me? What if I fail? And here's the classic. I can't do this. So this is the fear zone. If you take the letters fear, F-E-A-R, forget everything and run. So that's generally how fear makes us feel. But fear actually stands for false evidence appearing real. Because if you look at a lot of these things, I'm not good enough, what if I fail, I can't do this, are they actually true? And that's why in that story that I told you at the beginning, it's a glass house. It's made of glass. And actually, sometimes it's not even real. Sometimes we convince ourselves that there is a glass wall there, when actually there's nothing there. The only thing that is actually stopping us is us. So how do we break through this fear zone? So in our brains, we have a system which is called the limbic system. And it is there to protect us. It's there to keep us safe. It's a biological mechanism that ultimately tries to keep us safe. So now what happens is when we want to do that new thing, we want to do that new activity, or there's some great consequence for something that we want to do, we hesitate. And it's at that point the brain goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Why did he just hesitate there? Whoa, whoa. Why did she just hesitate there? And it's that hesitation that kicks off the limbic system and immediately says, there must be something wrong here. There must be some danger here. Because when she got out of bed, she didn't hesitate. When he went to brush his teeth, he didn't hesitate. When he went to get in the car, he didn't hesitate. So all of a sudden, because there's a hesitation, we hesitate because there's some fear there because, again, something new that we're doing. Immediately the biology kicks in. Then the next state is we start to ruminate and we go down this rabbit hole of what if I'm not enough? What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? Oh, woe is me, and so many things. So, everybody's going to be judging me, and we ruminate and we ruminate and we ruminate to the point where we procrastinate. And now, one of the funniest things, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, is that when you have a tight deadline, have you ever had the experience that instead of getting on with the work, you start to distract yourself, you start to procrastinate? Even though it's a really tight deadline, you start to distract yourself, and especially we do it through dopamine. We get the dopamine hits. Get on your phone, get on YouTube, scrolling, or TikTok, and just scroll, and just getting that dopamine hit, because then we don't have to deal with the uncomfortable emotions at the edge, at the wall of the comfort zone. And through that dopamine hit, it's almost like we're just numbing ourselves and we're just keeping ourselves in that pleasure state almost to stop that uncomfortable feeling from coming up. And that's why we procrastinate. And then the crazy thing is, then the deadline just gets even tighter and it just doesn't make logical sense. And this is exactly the point, because it's not logical. Procrastination is a result of the conflict between the emotional and logical sides of our brain. So there is an emotional side, the limbic system, which is looking for comfort and reassurance. Whereas the rational side, that's more in terms of long-term thinking, obviously the logical side. And the problem with the logical side is that sometimes it gets lost in this maze where it starts to overthink. What about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And before you know, it's the whole paralysis by analysis. So there is one simple tip that will help us come out of this. You can see here in this diagram that on one side we have the logical side, and the other side we have the emotional side. So it's like, how do we tip the scales in our favor? How do we tip the scales in our favor? So when you have the logical side versus the emotional side, the tip is to simply get started. So there's a 5-minute rule that is there. And what you say to yourself is, I'm going to do this activity for just 5 minutes. And after that time, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. And then what happens is, because you're only having to do it for 5 minutes, it doesn't seem like such a big problem. It doesn't seem like, oh my God, I have to do this. So therefore, the brain goes, okay, let's do it. Now, I just want to clarify here that sometimes people misunderstand this, this fear. Sometimes people misunderstand that to be laziness. When we're procrastinating, oh, I'm just being lazy. Oh, what's wrong with me? And sometimes we often get into this state. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this session, was to explain that sometimes it's actually biological. It's not laziness. You know, we beat ourselves into the ground. Oh my God, why can't I do this? There are emotional reasons, sometimes beyond our control. That is the reason why. So it's not to do with laziness. Here's a tip. What you do is you break down the big task into bite-sized tasks, to bite-sized chunks. And then what you do is you do that thing for 5 minutes. And naturally what's going to happen is, once you get started, once you get on a roll, then that's going to become easier. So then naturally you'll be like, I did 5 minutes. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that uncomfortable. Why don't you do another 5 minutes? Okay, then. So you do another 5 minutes. And before you know it, you're in a roll, and you're not fighting against the comfort zone. There is the CEO of Insta, Kevin Systrom, the founder and CEO of Insta. He actually says he uses this 5-minute rule to prevent himself from procrastinating. You can see he's done such an amazing thing. He's worked so hard. He also faces the comfort zone. It's not like it's only, shall we say, the normal people who face it, even though, especially those who want to be successful. We have to face the comfort zone and get through it. And we have to find ways of overcoming that comfort zone, because anytime you reach a new ceiling, anytime you reach new heights, you are going to face different levels of fear zone at that point. So here's what we do. We use a trick which is called the stretch zone. So using this 5-minute rule, what we do is we create a stretch zone for ourselves. So we don't go all the way to the growth zone. We don't, like, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're doing something big, like you're revising for an end of year exam, or you're preparing for an interview. And there's lots of things that, there's lots of, shall we say, material that you have to get through. Now, if you just look at the material overall, it can be totally overwhelming. The comfort zone comes up and goes, right, I'm not going to do anything. So what we do is we've broken it down into small chunks, and we say, I'm just going to do this little bit. And I'm just going to keep working at that little bit. And we call that the stretch zone. We're just going to do a little bit, which is outside of our comfort zone. And then what happens is, as we keep doing it, that stretch zone now becomes our new comfort zone. So now we're into the fear zone, but a little bit. We haven't just, shall we say, smashed through it and gone all the way to the growth zone in one go. We're just going step by step. Okay, new stretch zone. I've done this, for example, with some of my clients. Some of them have had difficulty in speaking to new people. So one of the things I asked them to do was, okay, use the stretch zone. I just want tomorrow, I want you to go and speak to one new person. One new person. Somebody that you've never spoken to before. Maybe he's in the office and you've kind of seen them, they've seen you. You've never actually struck up a conversation. Go speak to them. And then once they've done it, and you're only going to speak to them for 2 minutes, between 2 and 5 minutes. That's it. and see how you feel. And often what happens is they'll come back and report to me that, you know what, I spoke to them for 10 minutes. Oh, they're a really nice person. It's like, great. Now do it for somebody else tomorrow. And like that, rather than, shall we say, just going into a meeting and having to speak up in that meeting in front of 20 people, just getting used to speaking one person at a time, one person at a time, getting to know people gradually. In fact, by the time you got to know the team, when it comes to a team meeting and you have to speak, you already feel comfortable and you know everybody anyway. So that way, that becomes the new comfort zone. And then guess what we do next? Use the stretch zone principle again, and we stretch ourselves again. We do another 5 minutes like that. And we keep stretching and stretching and stretching until we get into the growth zone. So that's tip number one, is to stretch yourselves. You are going to face some uncomfortable emotions when you're trying to do something new. But remember, unless you do something you've never done, you won't get what you've never got. So we're going to have to get used to this. So the way that we want to turn that around, what we saw earlier, we hesitate, then we ruminate, then we procrastinate. So that's the process. And it happens in a flash. It's not like there's any time to think about it. You literally just go through that process in a flash. You go from hesitating, that moment of hesitation, immediately the brain comes, starts ruminating, and then you're procrastinating like that. So we want to turn this around to, we want to motivate. So tell yourself, just 5 minutes. I'm just going to do and take one of the easiest parts of the task first, especially when you do that 5 minutes. If you take the hardest part of the task often and you're really struggling to do this in the first place, sometimes because it's such a hard task, you after that 5 minutes, you're just like, forget it. So do something which is easier first if you can. So that's the motivate bit. Just 5 minutes. Then then activate. So you motivate yourself. Okay, tell yourself, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes. Then you do it for 5 minutes. Activate. So motivate, activate. And then after that 5 minutes, you celebrate. You tell yourself, well done, like you, woohoo, yeah, that was amazing. Give yourself a reward. Give yourself a dopamine hit. Because when you celebrate like that after the 5 minutes, the brain goes, oh, I enjoyed that. That was nice. Guess what? The next question is going to be, shall we do another 5 minutes? Yeah, why not? Because it's looking for that dopamine hit again. You see? And like this, when you motivate, activate, and celebrate using the 5 minute rule, that allows you sometimes to get over that difficult comfort zone that was there initially for that particular task. So that's tip number one. Now, tip number two, sometimes we can get started and maybe we do the 5 minutes, but the emotional side, the limbic aspect is just too overwhelming. And in one sense, you could say it's almost painful to continue. Your mind is just, it's like it's screaming, no, you can't do this, no. I don't know if you've ever had that experience when you're trying to do something. It's just like, oh my God, what's going on? So in that case, we often need to look deeper. So I'm going to show you now how you can do that, what's actually at play. So there's the logical side and there's the emotional side. So I just want to go through some characteristics or some parts of each of those sides. Now, there can be more, but I don't want to overcomplicate this. I want to keep this simple. So I've chosen 2 for one side and 2 for the other side. So if we look at the logical side, one of the things that the logical side being, shall we say, the side that wants to actually get it done, the emotional side we'll look at as the uncomfortable emotions from the comfort zone that are stopping us. So look at it as the logical versus the emotional in the sense of the logical wants to do it. The emotional is like, no, I don't want to do it. So on the logical side, one of the key things that we have is desire. That hunger to achieve that goal, that drive, that wanting to fly high in the sky, wanting to do well for ourselves, not just for ourselves, for our family, for society, to follow our purpose. For some people, it's for God. So wanting to do whatever it is that we want to do and achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve. So that desire is there. And the other side is the comfort zone. So we desire to achieve that goal. But then on the other side is that wall of the comfort zone that's saying, whoa, 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 you're doing something new here. Is this safe? Is this okay to do? And immediately comes up. So those are two parts. Then on the logical side, we can also use the pain of regret to help, shall we say, boost that side, to make that side stronger, heavier. In this case, I've shown it as a, just metaphorically, I've shown this as a, like a scale. So we're trying to increase the logical side so it weighs heavier than the emotional side in order to get a yes. And then we overcome the comfort zone and can be able to do what we need to do. So another aspect, another trick that we can use is to increase the pain of regret. And that way, that increases the weight, because if we think about that thing that we could have done, should have done, would have done, if we think about that thing and then think about the regret that we didn't do it. I mean, one of the worst ones I've had a friend who experienced this. He wanted to, at school, no, this was at university, he wanted to ask a girl out. And the pain of regret was there because comfort zone was there and he was just too shy. He just couldn't ask this girl out. And eventually she got a boyfriend and she went off with somebody else. And he had that pain of regret that I wish I'd just asked her, because they were really good friends. He liked her a lot and it seemed like she liked him, but he never had the courage to ask her. So sometimes in that situation, if you think about the pain of regret, if I wasn't a coach at that time, otherwise I'm sure I would have, sure I would have taught him this, that if you think about the pain of regret, what would happen if she went off with somebody else? So when that pain of regret is so great, that also sometimes pushes you over the edge to come out of the comfort zone and be like, you know what, screw the pain of the uncomfortable emotions. This pain of regret is too much. And I'd rather at least ask her, get my answer, and I can move on. So you can also use the pain of regret. I'm going to show you in a moment how to use that. And then the last thing on the emotional side is trauma. Now, I just want to clarify here, I'm not going to go into trauma so much today. And I'll save that for another session. Just to briefly explain what is trauma, because this word is sometimes thrown around a lot. Trauma is a strong negative emotional response to a situation. And the emotion is often buried in the subconscious mind. Sometimes we're not even consciously aware of it. Sometimes we are, sometimes we realize it because it raises its ugly head, shall we say, and then goes back down again into the subconscious. And just to make it clear, trauma doesn't necessarily mean that it was the incident itself was traumatic. Sometimes we can have trauma from something seemingly not so traumatic. So the key thing about trauma is what makes it trauma is not what actually happens, but it's our emotional response to what actually happens. So just to give you a simple example, a parent harshly saying no to a young child is not traumatic, from an external point of view. Anybody seeing that just be like, oh, the parent's just being harsh, and walk away. It's not a traumatic situation. But for a young child, and especially say this was like something that they really, 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 really wanted, or they're maybe it's their birthday or something like that, and they've got a really high expectation, and then the parent harshly says no like that, that can have a traumatic response within the child. But like I said, externally, that doesn't look like it's anything traumatic. And the response, the emotional response and the psychological response is then, oh, my mom or my dad doesn't love me. And that can be a deep-rooted thing that causes so many negative emotions. So that is, when we speak about trauma, we're talking about something on that level. It's actually what's going on inside. Now, if that's on the other side, along with the comfort zone, the kind of uncomfortable emotions at the wall of the comfort zone. Then we've got the desire on the other side, the desire of achieving that goal, and then we've got the pain of regret. So those are the, shall we say, competing forces on either side of getting this task done, or whatever it is that we have to do. Sometimes it is reaching out to somebody, reaching out in terms of a relationship, or asking for that promotion, or that raise at work. So sometimes it's like that. We have to push past to achieve that thing. We really have to push past some of the emotional side. So tip number 2 here is we want to increase the desire, and we want to increase the pain of regret, so much so that when they are increased, it overpowers or overrides the emotional side and allows us to get on with what we need to do. So at this point, I'm going to do a little exercise with you. So if I could ask everybody to close your eyes at this point, if it's safe to do so. Of course, if you're driving, obviously don't close your eyes, or operating any machinery. But if it's safe to do so, then at this point, just sit in a relaxed, comfortable position. Switch off from the world just for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and just close your eyes. I'm going to ask you now to take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And at this point, there's nowhere you need to be. There's nothing you need to do just for the next 2 or 3 minutes. This is your time for you. So now just think about that one task that you've been putting off. You know which one it is. You know which one I'm talking about. Think about a thing that you really need to get done. And we'll give you some amazing progress in your life. That'll have some impact on you, maybe even your family, maybe even your extended family, your parents. They don't live with you. Maybe you can buy something incredible, take your family on holiday, whatever it is. Think about that one thing that if you did it, what you'd get. And now think about the regret that you would feel if you didn't do it, if you didn't even try. Think about the pain of that regret. Think about how you wouldn't be able to do all those things that you could have done if you did do it. And how would you feel towards yourself? What does that mean about you if you don't do this? What regrets would you feel? And then if we look in maybe 5 years' time, as a direct result of you not doing this, what have you missed out on? What opportunities have you missed out on? And then if you look 10 years down the line, how would you regret not being able to achieve whatever it was that you want to achieve at this point in your life? And what a difference it's made. And finally, if you think about yourself, maybe when you're 80 years old, and you look back at this time, at this particular year, and you look back and you think, what if I had done that? What if I had achieved that? Where would I be right now? Allow that pain of regret. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow it to grow. Allow it to grow enough so that you overcome the uncomfortable feelings of the comfort zone. Now at the same time, I want you to go back to, what if you did do it? How would you feel? What would that mean for you? What would that open up for you? And then in 5 years' time, when you look back at this time, look at where you are in 5 years' time. as a direct result of you having done what you needed to do. And then look 10 years into the future. Look how you just kept going. The comfort zone kept getting stretched and stretched and stretched. And look where you are now in 10 years' time. Incredible. By the time you're 80 years old, when you look back on your life, you see how you stretched the comfort zone whenever you needed to. You overcame the comfort zone using the stretch technique. Feel how good that feels now. 80 years old. One of the key things. No regrets. Give yourself a mental high five. Now, as I count up to 5, I want you to come back up gradually, slowly, and think about that task that you need to do and be ready to overcome it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wide awake. So just share with me in the chat your experience there. Share with me some of the thoughts that you had. Did that increase the feeling of regret? Did that increase the feeling of desire? In a previous video, actually, I spoke about how to fully increase that desire. Today, I didn't focus on that so much, but you can watch that particular video to get the full experience, increasing your desire. One of the key questions that I want you to answer now is, do you feel that if you increase the pain of regret, do you feel that if you increased the desire, that you would then be able to overcome the power, the pull of the comfort zone? I felt the increase of the pain of regret, but it wasn't enough to get over the discomfort of the comfort zone. So one more comment here. Still had the fear of the unknown. Yes, that is one of the key things of the comfort zone. It's like, but I don't know what the next steps are. Just on that point, actually, let me tell you a quick story. I've shared this story with a few people and it's helped them a lot. Especially when we use the power of manifesting. I'll talk about this more next week, but especially when we use the power of manifesting, often the question comes up is how? So I want to achieve that particular goal. And it's like, we need to know all the steps along the way before we even take that first step. And what you need to understand is, what you need to convince your comfort zone of, is that it's not like that. It's not ever, in one sense, especially for such a big goal, it's not ever that you're going to have every single step laid out. There is always going to be something that life will throw along the way. A curveball, the road will go to the left. The road is never a straight road. Only Romans made completely straight roads. So look at the world today. I don't know if there is any straight road today. The road's always curving. Whatever journey you want to go on, especially a long journey, there's always going to be some curve in the road that you will need to take. And you can't necessarily see that when you start the journey. So there was a man who lived in the mountains with his family, and they didn't have electricity, they don't have street lamps. His wife was very sick one night, and he told his young daughter that, please take this lantern, and go bring the doctor here because your mom is really sick. So the daughter held the lantern and she saw that it just lit up the next, say, 5 yards. So she said, Dad, how am I going to go all the way to the doctor's place? The doctor's place is 1 mile away. And the father said to her, my dear daughter, you don't need to see the entire mile for you to do that journey. All you need to see is the next few steps. Then as you move the lantern, the next few steps will be revealed to you. And she was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. And that's what it is in life. That's how it is in life. As you take those first steps, you then realize that, okay, this is the next step, this is the next step. And maybe it's not quite to what you had planned, but that's the beauty of life. I remember when I first became a coach, I went down, shall we say, the coaching route, and the journey kind of was like this. It curved and moved this way as I dealt with different clients, and to the point where I decided that more I wanted to focus on trauma therapy, wanted to focus on as a hypnotherapist, and I use coaching as well. I use CBT as well. I use so many different techniques. But the point is, when I first started that journey as a coach, I never knew that this is where I'm going to be today. I never knew that this is what I'm going to experience. I didn't know that at the start. You just use the lantern, you can see the first 5 yards or whatever it is, and then the next few yards become clear. And it's like, oh yeah, that's the direction I need to go. So I hope that story inspires you and helps. So tip number 2, we saw was about tipping the scales in your favor. So now we've increased the desire, we've increased the pain of regret. I told you a story there. So in one sense, we've tried to decrease the comfort zone, or decrease the push or the strength of the comfort zone there by telling you, look, you don't need to see the entire journey. You only need to see the first 5 yards to be able to start that journey. And then the next 5 yards will become clear. So now the comfort zone is like, oh, okay, then that's not so bad. So now we've decreased the comfort zone. So like that. So increase the pain of regret, increase the desire, decrease the comfort zone, and ideally decrease the trauma if there is any. Now, sometimes, so those 2 tips, try them out first, and by using those tips, you will be able to overcome some of the big tasks that you need to face. Now, sometimes you will face a task, you will face something that you need to do, and you actually cannot do it. You go into freeze state no matter how much you try to increase the desire, no matter how much you try to increase the pain of regret. You can't overcome it. Like even just thinking about that thing just makes you want to go to bed, or you just want to collapse, or you just want to like forget the world. Just want to completely zone out, hide away in your room, be on your phone. So that often indicates that the emotional cup is already full for some reason. The emotional cup might be already full. And sometimes the reason why is because there is some trauma from the past that is there at the subconscious level. One client that I'm dealing with, for example, one of the deep issues that we discovered is that she has a deep feeling of not being enough. So whenever she comes up against something where she will be judged, because there is a deep-rooted feeling of not being enough, and it was caused by a lot of her siblings when she was younger. It was caused by being bullied at school, because so much of that trauma is in there. Then that means her emotional cup is already full. Now, all it takes is a little bit of shall we say, negative emotions from the comfort zone for the scales to get tipped like this. So you can see now it's tipped the other way, where now the answer is no. She's not going to be able to move forward until she deals with the trauma. So tip number 3 is get help. When it is to this level, when it is this situation, get help. And I'll just tell you straight, I'll be the first to put my hand up. I have spent years and years and years being stuck, to the point where I could even say that the goal of my life was to have a shower. Like, okay, I'd go to work, somehow get through work. But on a Saturday and Sunday, even just to get out of bed and have a shower was a huge thing. It was like the goal of the day, was just to be able to do that. Because there was so much negativity towards, I can't remember the exact situation, I think trying to get a new job, something along those lines. I just couldn't face it, couldn't deal with it. And it's only through getting help, ultimately through trauma therapy, that I was able to reduce the trauma and become who I am today. Now people look at me today and they're like, wow, you can do this and you can do that. Yes. And the reason why is because I got help. Otherwise, I'll still be stuck there in that place in the past. Who knows if I'd be married? Who knows if I'd have kids, if I would have had kids, if I'd allowed myself to stay stuck in that rut, shall we say, for so many years, continued allowing myself to be stuck in a rut. So there's sometimes you do need to get help, but obviously, ultimately, it's up to you. And who you go to, it's up to you. I am a trauma therapist. I can help with this, but it's up to you who you go to. The point is, sometimes you need to have that realization. You need to care about yourself enough to say, yeah, put your hands up and say, right, I need to get help here. I need to get external help. And be brave enough to admit it. One of the questions I often get asked as a therapist, as a hypnotherapist, is do you have male clients or a majority of your clients female? And it's an interesting question because I know where it's coming from. It's obviously coming from the fact that many men have this idea that if I ask for help, that means I'm weak. And it's a real misconception. Sometimes there are even females who also have that misconception. Asking for help doesn't mean you're weak. If you look at all the successful people in the world, they all have some kind of coach, therapist, whatever that has helped them get through whatever they. Even if you look at if you think about the comfort zone, imagine somebody's got a business and they've only ever dealt with, shall we say, thousands of pounds. Then the business grows and grows and grows, and now all of a sudden they're dealing with millions of pounds. Now there's a business deal, and it could gain them millions, but at the same time, it could cost them, let's say, something like 10 million pounds. If I asked you, if you were the business owner and you had to deal with something where the consequence was 10 million, what would your reaction be? And naturally, because it's like the new level of comfort zone, we're freaking out. Oh my God, 10 million. Like sometimes we freak out. I don't know, it's just like we have to pay £100 more or something like that. Imagine there's something along the lines of millions of pounds. So they need coaches. They get external help. That's why they can do what they do. That's why they're so successful. So it's not weak to get help. It's a real big misconception. So if you need, obviously, if you can see the situation, you literally cannot get past this comfort zone. It means you need somebody else to come and open the door for you from that. It's locked from the outside. You need somebody else to come and open that door for you from the outside. So if there are any comments on that, I would appreciate, please share in the chat. So that's one aspect, is when the trauma is too much, the emotional dysregulation is just too much. Another aspect is if the overthinking of the comfort zone gets too much. Sometimes there's a decision you have to make, and it's like, what about this? And what about that? What about this? And there's so many different options and so many different pathways that your brain can just get scrambled almost. So again, if that is the case, sometimes you can just reach out to a parent, a friend, a mentor, somebody like that. Again, get help. Talk through those different scenarios, and sometimes the answer then becomes obvious. But the point is, if you just have it going round and round and round and round in your head, it's going to drive you crazy. It's like sometimes I say this to clients and they laugh because it's like that's exactly how they feel. It's like your brain is going, I'm gonna go like that. The reason why I know that sound is because my brain has done it. I've experienced it as well. And it's just like, just leave me alone. It's almost like you want to break from yourself because you're just driving yourself crazy, just going round and round and round and looking at all these different possibilities. So your brain is just wearing at that time, yes. Ask for help or take a step back, write out the different options, do a mind map, do a flow chart, figure out, okay, these are the different options, then look at it. And when it's kind of out of paper, when it's out of your head, then it's easier to, shall we say, view the different options and weigh them up. But when you're trying to manage it all in your head, on top of everything else you have to do in life, it does get too much. So then naturally that's paralysis by analysis, or shall we say paralysis by over-analysis. Okay, so that's that aspect. And then, of course, there is the other aspect where it is both the comfort zone, the emotions of the comfort zone are too high, and there's trauma as well. And again, same thing as I said before, just get help. There's no point even trying to figure it out yourself. If you know this is the case, you need to get help. You need to get external help, and yeah. get it done. And once it's done, you'll be like, my God, how many months or years did I waste because I could have dealt with it much quicker. And what we do is in therapy, we just reduce the comfort zone, the uncomfortable feelings of the comfort zone, we reduce the emotional cup, what's in there, and it allows you to breathe again, have space, head space again, and it's just things are so much better for you. We've got those 3 tips there. So tip number 1 is use the 5-minute rule. So just do that thing for 5 minutes first. Tip number 2 is to increase the pain of regret and increase the desire. You can use meditation, you can write, create a nice story, and increase those things on that side. So then you're able to overcome the comfort zone and trauma. Then the third option is to get help. So whether it's a friend, whether it's a parent, if it's something on the comfort zone side, if it is something that is trauma related, something deep at the subconscious level, then yes, I definitely recommend going to a therapist and sorting out, just get it done. Like I said, I wouldn't be who I am today and where I am today if I hadn't done that. So if you enjoyed this, so I just want to let you know, I have an online course called the Success Breakthrough Workshop, where we look at this exact thing, the difficulties of the comfort zone, and we break it down and we look at in that course what is there at the wall of the comfort zone. And then what we do is we create a story that increases the desire and allows you to overcome that wall of the comfort zone. So that workshop is 199. It's all online, and you can access it whenever you want to. You just go into the library and put in your username and password, and then you can access. There's 10 video modules in that, and at the end of it, you create a wonderful story that you read every day and use it to imprint on your subconscious mind. And that story is then used in the next course, the Attracting Financial Abundance course. So this is specifically using the power of manifesting the techniques. I'm going to go through those next week, actually. I'm just going to give you an overview next week of this, Attracting Financial Abundance, the power of manifesting the techniques. So the first thing that you start off with is the story that you want to manifest, the big goal that you want to achieve. So that's £50 for that one. And then as well as those 2 courses, I'm going to give you a free ticket to the Loving Yourself workshop in March. This is, shall we say, one of my signature courses. I'd like to do it live, engage with you, and it's about a 3-hour workshop where we go deeper in developing the relationship with yourself and boosting your self-esteem and your confidence. Like that. It's one of the most important workshops for anybody who's in relationships, which is most people. And that's £35 for the ticket. So we're doing it in London, having the workshop live in London and also in Birmingham. Now, I'm going to give all 3 courses just for a limited time. It is available right now for £55, the whole thing. You get all 3 courses together. The online workshops you'll get access to them as soon as you've signed up. You'll get an email, ask you to create a password, and then you'll have access to them straight away. And you can go to www.nicheday.com/store to see the advert for that. Like I said, this is one way to help you overcome the comfort zone, overcome the resistance of the comfort zone if and when you're struggling, especially for a goal that you've never achieved before. And this course has helped many people. There's one person in particular, obviously keeping client confidentiality, but there's one person in particular who did that course, and for about 15 years, he's struggled to achieve this one thing in his life. And after doing that course, it just gave him increased the desire enough to make that big, bold decision. And then he achieved it. Then we also have, also want to give you the opportunity to have one-to-one sessions with myself. So this, I charge £80 per hour. Sometimes The course can help you increase the desire, but if there is something specifically very, shall we say, almost complicated, or something that's very tangled up in your own mind, sometimes you need a person to actually, shall we say, sit there and kind of untangle it for you. Sometimes people ask me, like, so do you do therapy on yourself? I'm like, no, I have a therapist. It's like, does a dentist pull out their own teeth? No, the dentist goes to the other dentist to have his teeth looked at and checked, etc. Like that. The same with me. When I do therapy, I like to sit there as the client, as the patient, shall we say, and let the other person do the hard work for me. So like this, even therapists, like a good therapist will have their own therapist like that. So having therapy is not a is for anyone, for everybody. You want to improve, you want to go deeper. Like I said, sometimes these things are just going round and round in your head, and we need to untangle them. So to set up a breakthrough session with me, a breakthrough call, you can just you can message me on WhatsApp, or you can email me, or you can go to the website www.nidgeday.com and you can message me through that. Okay. So now, before we come to questions and answers, I just want to conclude with a little poem. When a storm approaches, the eagle sheds no tear. All other birds hide under shelter in great fear. The eagle, however, flies higher and higher in the sky, flying above the storm until it passes by. Let us strive to be like the eagle and fly higher in life. Develop the eagle mentality and overcome any strife. So the story at the beginning was about a young eagle, and he was trapped in that glass house. And this is the great thing about eagles, and the reason why I chose that particular bird in the story, is that when a storm comes, the eagles are actually known to fly higher than the storm, above the storm. So they're completely unaffected by it. And this is what we want to do in our life. When something comes, when the comfort zone, the wall of the comfort zone comes, we want to climb higher than the comfort zone. We want to be like that eagle and get over that comfort zone, because we've got things to achieve. We want to be, let's say, 80 years old and want to look back on our life with zero regrets. Wouldn't that be something? So yes. Okay, so next week. So just be aware, next week, the session is not going to be on the Wednesday, it's going to be on the Tuesday the 20th of February, 8 to 9, and we're going to look at the 5 steps to the power of manifesting. And if you haven't signed up to the email, so after these sessions, I do send out a summary of what we've discussed. So for example, today you get some of the tips. Last week, I went through a summary of those points that we had in that session. So those will all be emailed to you, and the Zoom link for these sessions is also emailed to you, and offers about the courses or anything like that will let you know about the Loving Yourself workshop in the future, especially if you've signed up to the course. You've obviously got the free ticket, you'll want to know about those workshops. So yes, all the information will be sent out via email. And I also do a daily motivational quote every day. So again, if you go to the website, you've got the WhatsApp option, and you'll get added to the WhatsApp list where you'll get these daily motivational quotes, and sometimes stories and jokes like that to keep you smiling and keep you motivated throughout the day. Especially, and this is mainly on a working day, Monday to Friday, to keep you motivated. Wonderful. Okay, so are there any questions? While anybody is writing a question, I'll just put my hand up. I like to share, just to show people that we're not even as coaches, even as therapists, we go through these things as well. So even leading up to doing this session, there was some real uncomfortable feelings that came up. I'm used to talking, especially on Zoom. I'm used to doing these things, but even then, we have to face and deal with those uncomfortable emotions. Everybody has to go through it. And I noticed what my default thing is. I was really analyzing. One of my default behaviors when that uncomfortable feeling comes up is I go on my phone and I'm just scrolling on YouTube. And then I think like half an hour, 40 minutes later, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, how did I get here? I don't know. You start off by watching some educational video, 2, 3 videos later, you're watching, the stupid people dancing and doing stupid things. And you just think, what the hell am I doing? Wasting my life right now. And then I stopped to analyze and I realized I'm exactly falling for the prison, falling into being held hostage by the comfort zone, because it's something that is a little bit outside of my comfort zone. The uncomfortable feelings are coming. Oh, you can't do this. How are you going to do this? Is it going to have like all these kind of things coming up? And it's like, oh my God, like I've exactly fallen for it. So I then use these techniques to come over it. So I increased the desire. And one of the ways, I'll teach you a trick. One of the ways to increase the desire is make it so it's bigger than just you. Make it so that's bigger than just you. Because, for example, if you're home alone and you're just cooking for yourself, sometimes we don't, we're not so motivated to make a nice meal and, really go lavish. We just cook something simple. It's just us. But let's say your family is there. Let's say you're inviting some friends that are really special. Do you decide at that point, oh, I'm just going to make something? No, you go out of your way. You really like because there's other people involved in shall we say, the consequence of it. That's what increases the desire. And that's a very good technique also to increase the desire. If you notice in the meditation that we did, I said, what's the consequence for your family? Because then it makes it bigger than just you. And that's important. Okay, so I have a question here. When you have trauma, you might not know you have trauma as it is buried in your subconscious. How do you identify trauma before it manifests as bad behavior or bad emotions? If it is buried in the subconscious, you aren't generally going to know about it until the symptoms show. It's like saying, how do we know we have a particular disease or bacteria that's hidden away? Well, you're not going to know until you get some symptom of it. So, but the point is that when that symptom comes, you need to jump on it straight away. Or if you want to be really, really preemptive, you can even just have a session anyway, even if you're not aware of anything traumatic, have a session and then we do the digging. The first thing that I do on what I call is assessment session, first thing I do is we assess what happened in childhood, we assess certain things, and we don't do it just you with your eyes open. In hypnotherapy, what we do is we do it with your eyes closed, because then we access the subconscious and we'll take you back in time, shall we say, and then we'll just see your life and what happened. I'll give you one example. So one girl came to me and she was having anger issues. And what she thought was it started because her mother did something when she was about, let's say, about 7 years old. She thought it was that. So when I took her back in time and we asked the question to the subconscious that, okay, what's the root cause here? Then it went back to when she was 3 years old, and there was an incident that happened just before a wedding. And her grandmother was there, her mother was there, and she got shouted at so badly. And this when she was 3 years old. She had no idea that was actually the root cause. She thought it was something completely different. So the subconscious will reveal what's there, because the nature of the subconscious is it records everything. Whatever we're seeing, whatever we're smelling, hearing, like that, it's all there. Like sometimes people use hypnotherapy to remember where they left something. Let's say, I don't know, so there's one case, it was not me who did this, but one of my mentors. She had a case where somebody had a winning lottery ticket, but they couldn't remember where they put it. So they used hypnotherapy to find out. They left it in the garage. So it's all there. It's there in the subconscious. We're just not aware of it. But the subconscious does it. We just need to access it, especially through hypnosis. That's what we do. So if you want to have a session, go and do a hypnosis session. If you want to be active about it, because we don't know it's there. Through hypnosis, it'll automatically come out. And sometimes you know it's there because of the symptoms, in the sense of there's certain things you're stuck on. There's certain things you just cannot get over. So it's like, okay, yeah, wonderful.